Hey, good morning. How you doing, Vasily?
Yeah, not too bad. What about yourself?
Yeah, not
All
too
good?
bad. How's your trip been so far to this point?
Oh, it's actually quite great. Yeah, I'm in Philadelphia now at my friend's place. So,
Oh, nice, nice.
yeah,
Is it
yeah.
just? Is it? Are you here on your own, or are you with the family as well?
I'm with my wife. Yes.
I'm sat in my little closet here. The joys of city living. I have to set up everything in a closet, so I'm very much out the way.
Well, I would call it a Harry Potter's office. Harry Potter study. Yeah.
Potter's office. Yeah, you know what? I should use that from now on. I've been calling it a cloffice, like a closet office, for
Oh,
the last 6 months. Yeah,
that's cool. As a Harry Potter's room. Like
I'll
go
take
to
it.
Harry's room.
I'll take yeah. Gary's room. Gary Potter. Oh, but
Awesome.
thanks again for the time.
I'm always in for. Thank you for having me.
Oh no,
That's
of
actually.
course, and we'll get to everything that you're getting on with. Welcome to the Crossing the Pond podcast, hosted by me, Gary Adair, where each week our guests will recount their own experiences of resilience and transformation, whether it's moving to a new country, tackling health challenges, changing careers, or breaking through personal barriers. We welcome Vasily Yurenkov to the show this week, who tells the story of leaving his home country of Russia in 2022 after his original plan to relocate was somewhat accelerated by the conflict with Ukraine. He talks of the strategies he used to make the move and how it has ultimately influenced him to start his journey as the founder of Greener Relocation, a service offering a combination of his fast travel experiences with data-driven advice to people who are looking to make a career or personal shift by moving to a new country. Just to give it a bit of context, because you're currently living in Amsterdam, is that correct?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So what was your decision to move from Russia?
So basically, we started planning our move in spring of 2021. So we decided that we want to move abroad because the general, let's put it, trend of politics and everything of the previous decade wasn't to our liking, and all options of influence in any way, well, the number of options was growing very, very thin. And so we decided that, okay, by the end of 2022, we'll be gone. And then basically in February, when things got real, we were in the middle of preparations and we figured out that, well, there's not so much left to wait for. I mean,
Yeah, time to
yeah, I
go.
mean, time to go. Yeah. So we just packed 4 suitcases, packed our cat, and drove off in a car. That's it.
And that was it with the outbreak of the war with Ukraine.
Yeah. So we left on 1st of March. On the 1st of March, we crossed the border
Okay.
to Estonia, and basically we were driving for a while then.
Was that an easy process at the time?
That wasn't an easy process. I mean, it was easier for us because we were preparing. So I have permanent residence card from Italy from the times when we were trying to make some business there. So I
Yeah.
used to live between Italy and Russia. And we managed to make a card for my wife. And there was still COVID times. There were still COVID regulations. Everybody who tried to go out the door, they had to fly away, or they had to go rather south and southeast.
Okay.
Right? So the western border was closed because of COVID regulations. But we had the residence permits and we had the green pass. So we were pretty much, I mean, except for us, there was almost no one out of the ordinary on the border.
Right.
So
And you were
we
already
were way ahead of the wave, yeah,
yeah,
basically.
that's good. And again, that comes down to the preparation. So I suppose for that, then you talk about the political climate and things. And again, I don't want to make this political because it's not. But
Yeah.
I think it's more about the strategy of it and the strategic thing. Like, was your traveling backwards and forwards to Italy through your business connections and work, was that a major factor as well? You know, I had it in my mind to come to America and try and do something because of, I don't know, friends or connections. Was it something along those lines as well? Like, listen, we can go to Italy here, or we can go somewhere and make it work for us for a better option. And before everything else, you know, really kicked off, was that the plan all along?
I can't say that it was precisely the plan. Maybe that's how I came up with the idea of what I'm doing now, which
Mhm.
we'll come back to a little bit later, right? So
Yeah.
Basically, so we were trying to do some business in Italy and with Italy. Then I also started in Germany. So many things were happening in Europe for me. And my wife on a separate track, right? So she graduated from London School of Economics and from Oxford University. So, and then she came back to Russia at some point. So for us, we tried living in Europe. Both places probably were like, I do love Italy, but it wasn't the place where I would be willing to settle down at this stage in my life. The things I want to do, they're just not there, right? It's not maybe not the best option. So we were kind of at the crossroads constantly, and then at some point we decided that no, probably it's better to start moving, and we started thinking about, okay, what if we just go back to square one about where are we going and start kind of thinking about it. Okay, so we have options, Italy, we have options, other options, but what if we just look at all the options and then start looking at not what's easier, but where do we want to land?
Yeah,
eventually?
where you actually want to go and what's going to work for
Yeah.
you. What was life like for you before this sort of, call it a pivot, where you decided that you wanted to, plan where to go next? You said your wife went to school in England and you've lived in Germany before, obviously before you moved, but what was your career path before you started this sort of strategic plan?
Yeah, so I was working in a multifamily office. So it was an investment vehicle for like 10 years. And I was also teaching at the university at the same time. I was teaching international economics. I'm an international economist by trade. So basically, right, it's my area. And life was actually pretty comfortable. I mean, my wife was doing a pretty good banking career. So by the time we were leaving, she was head of strategy, innovation, and transformation in a bank. Not the top tier bank, but it was a pretty solid bank, quite a big one. And I just quit all my employment things and I was starting business of my own. We just moved in a new flat. I was playing in a band. I mean, we had lots and lots of friends. We have two cats. Life is pretty awesome, except for some, external things that were a bit buzzing in the back of the mind constantly. Yeah. But otherwise, it was like if everything was fine, we would have probably never moved.
Yeah.
Because it was just too comfortable.
On a side note, because I tend to pick up on random things during conversations. What instrument do you play?
I play electric guitar.
Yeah.
So yeah, I play electric guitar. Yeah.
What type of a band was it? Was it a metal band? Was it?
I would say we're somewhere hard rock.
Yeah.
And it was funny because so we came together when all of us were a bit tired of the office work and everything. So that we had like quite a few consultants, some investment guys, and we were just, hell, let's play. And we started with covers, but in a few years' time, I managed to push the guys into writing our own material.
Right.
And we have 5 songs on Spotify, 1 in Russian, 4 in English.
Okay.
And we were basically slowly moving to recording an album, and it was very, very tricky because some guys were closer to blues and jazz, some were into Dream Theater and Tool and heavy and progressive stuff. We had 2 vocalists, and they also, one was a bit more into pop, the other more into hard rock or jazz. And so, I mean, it was funny, trying to make it work, and it was very, very slowly getting somewhere.
That's a big collaboration right there, isn't it? Though talking about what, 5 to 10 people, maybe.
We were 7 at some point.
Yeah.
Then it was down to 6, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. Was it tough? Was it tough at that point to leave? Did those people stay behind, or have you sort of met them along the way and they move in similar circles to you?
Some stayed behind and left later. Some left at the same time. And yeah, so basically one day we were planning, there was a festival, so we were planning to play on a festival and recording songs. And the other day you basically see that the guitarist is driving a car in the Baltics. The vocalists are in Dubai because their company has relocated them. The bassist is somewhere in Armenia, I think. Former members, one is in Singapore, the other is in Montenegro. So I mean, it's just like all around the place. Some people are back, some people came back later.
That's good. It's a nice little side thing, but it does give us a bit of context, especially about what we're going to talk about. But because again, you said you got a head start on as soon as the war broke out. You got a head start. You were very proactive with helping your wife with her paperwork and getting yourselves over the border. What does that being prepared mean to you when everything else around you is just, so uncertain?
Well, I mean, when emergency happens, you always react. You can't be strategic in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to act strategically, you have to think about it in advance. That's kind of the trick of it, right? So you have to, at some point, sit and think, okay, what is it that you actually want? What is it that you actually don't want? What kind of compromise are you prepared for? Then you start from there. So like, okay, this is your plan A, this is your plan B. It's very good if you have a plan C. Then if at some point emergency happens, it will never be according to your plan, but you don't have to, sit down and do the whole analytics. You just adapt very quickly. But again, you change one or two things, and as for the rest, it goes according to the notes. So it's, the trick is just if you feel that you don't like where things are going, if you feel that maybe it's worth exploring something else when we're talking about moving abroad, right? So if you feel that something is not right, maybe it makes, and you have these thoughts, maybe I should move abroad, or maybe I should have moved abroad. Well, maybe sit down and talk this through with your partner to think about it. Okay, what is it that's in your way? Do you have to actually move abroad? Because maybe you don't need, maybe you just need to, change your job, or I don't know, do something else, change the neighborhood and move to another city, and that will be fine. Or if you understand that, okay, no, you probably have to move abroad, then okay, where, how are you going to do that? If you don't want to, but you're afraid that maybe you will have to, okay, kind of, draw this timeline, like, okay, so, but this maybe, it's like, what are you going to do? You're now here.
Yeah.
Once
What are
you're
you going to
here,
get to? At what point do you want to be at when it's here?
at what point do you want to get out? And at one point, you certainly don't want to be in anymore at all.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that kind of helps because it puts things in perspective. And usually from the inside of history, of the history, you don't notice it because you notice the small things, right? You have a business meeting, you have something planned, you have a vacation here, maybe, I don't know, a mortgage there or something. I mean, some things going around.
It's not just moving locations, is it? This is kind of a strategy that people should be using every day, right? People probably do this subconsciously all the time, don't they? But it is just a case of getting it, maybe putting it down in front of you. It's easy to manage.
You're absolutely right. I mean, it's the art of strategy, right? So actually, my thesis at the university, even though I was international economics, was on Sun Tzu's art of war and its applications in business strategies. So basically, yeah, it's your basic strategy. The thing is that many of us, we don't spell these things out. And it's a very complex and complicated thing to really keep in our brains. Most of us will not be able to compute it. And those who think that they can compute it, they still can't.
Yep.
They just don't know it. So, I mean, spelling these things out, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Not only about moving, just about generally, okay, which way are you heading in your life? Like, why? Is it you heading, or is it just, opportunities falling in your lap and you can't resist them? Not all opportunities are opportunities. I mean,
I'm listening to you now, and it's resonating with me so much because I'm just like, and anyone who knows me, and I'm sure you might be similar, is not on an economy strategy level, but just contingency for this. Okay, well, if this happens, then okay, what am I going to do now? Or the contingency on contingency, just constantly looking for the options. I think like that quite a bit. But, and again, you're 100% right. Sometimes you just have to write these things down because if you don't, it can become very, very overwhelming.
You can burn the paper later. I mean, you don't have to keep it, but you have to spell it out. Yeah.
You really, and honestly, I can imagine, right? I've got the amount of notebooks I have that have just got absolute twaddle written all over them, but it makes sense to me in the moment. And if I write it down and see it, then and like you said, you can tear it up and throw it in the trash later. But that's definitely a good tactic that I definitely use. How did you've talked about living in Russia, living in Italy, Germany. You're of course now in the Netherlands. how did you evaluate each place? Like you mentioned briefly at the beginning about Italy, like you like it, but it was never going to be a place that you would be able to get, what work done or what you wanted to do done. So how do you evaluate each place personally when you choose to go?
So basically, that's a complicated thing because when we were working with Italy and in Italy, I never had this idea that, oh no, I probably will not be moving it. On the contrary, I was always thinking, well, not this year, but yeah, I have to do the move, because living between the countries is, well, it's tiresome. You have a lot to really, juggle. It's complicated. But then it never came to that. I mean, there was always something that keeping me back. And that's when, at some point, when I decided I want to start a business of my own, I don't want to be in employment anymore. I was like, wait, I have all these people, myself included, who were sort of moving without thinking, right? So you first move, and then you kind of, if you're lucky, you land nicely, you settle, everything's fine. If you're not lucky, you kind of go back or move elsewhere, or you become one of those immigrants who live there and whine all the way about how everything is bad and the
Yeah.
climate is bad and the taxes are high and everything is not what it used to be. And it's like, why have I moved here? But on the other hand, I was working, I was doing strategy most of the time, right? So investments and corporate strategy things. I was like, wait, but it's something I know how to do, right? So it's a pretty simple thing. Actually, you have to outline what you want, outline what you get, what are you like, somehow narrow down the list,
Mm-hmm.
and then evaluate it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, at some point I started doing that, just that. And but before that, it was purely reactive. You get an opportunity and you just jump in. Then you get another opportunity and you just jump in. There is an option. Okay, let's try setting up this business in Italy. What do we know about Italy? We don't know anything about Italy. It's nice weather. It's very lovely cuisine, very lovely people. Awesome. Why not? Now I can tell you 10 reasons why not, but I can also give you 5 reasons why yes.
Yeah.
Depending on what you're doing. Same with Germany.
Depends on what you're looking for.
Precisely. So paradise for some would be a nightmare for the others.
Yeah.
And it's the same place. It's absolutely same place. And maybe people who are like absolutely same, but for one it will be paradise, for the other it will be hell. It's just okay. It will depend on what you're looking for. So that's how I basically moved from, just choosing on a hunch to boiling it down to a scoring model.
For people who wouldn't know, how would you describe the differences between a Germany and an Italy, for example? Like, what sort of things are you pulling out of that?
So if like more personal thing, right?
Yeah.
So like a feeling wise, well, Germany is very much about rules. It's all very, it's funny, stereotypes, they work quite well until they don't. So Germany is, things work, everything is good unless it is Deutsche Bahn, the German rails, because German rails don't work. Yeah, so they're always late, they're always broken or
Really?
something. Yeah, it's worse than in Italy, trust me. I don't know I actually know what happened, but we can record a podcast on that. That's a very long and sad story that happened in the 90s to them. But to them, the way I feel it, right? So this kind of order is very important, right? In Italy, your first feeling is that you don't have any order. It's like, oh, everybody's quite relaxed, a bit stressed at the same time, but also quite relaxed. Nothing seems to be on time, nothing seems to work, but it does work at the same time, it may look as a relaxed chaos to the outsider, but it is really not. It is less codified and more in the personal relations. So things work when you know the people. And people know the people. And once we noticed how bank employee at the teller was sorting out a problem. And well, I also used to work in a strategy department of a bank, but my wife, she's like a banker with big experience. So
Right.
automatizing things, right? Introducing startups there. Whatever. And she was looking at it amazed, and she was like, okay, you cannot digitalize this. Because basically the whole system works because this lady has been working here for 20 years and she knows that other lady that has been working in another branch for 30 years. And that other lady knows the third lady in a third branch. and then they can make it work. You cannot just, digitalize that, but it works.
It all depends on attitudes, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, our friend who is Italian, he told us once that he was working in a big international company, and he had a guy sent to him as a sort of an internal internship from Germany. And they were working in Italy. And so this guy requested some data from another guy in the Italian office. And my friend, he asks, okay, so where's the data? He said, yeah, but I wrote an email, but they didn't send me any. Did they reply to you? No, they didn't. Did you go to them? No, but I sent them an email. Okay, come with me. So he goes there to this guy. They go to the next floor. And he says, hi, so this is our new guy. He's been working here. Then they chat about football, then about something else. And they say, by the way, can you send me that data? Oh, yeah, I'll do this right away. Because this is how it works. Otherwise, it's impolite. In Germany, it's the other way around, slightly a bit around, right? So if you go there and start chatting to people during their working hours, I mean, why are you distracting them? It is impolite.
Yeah.
So it's this, little differences, and well, we're all different. So you either prefer one way or the other way, or you can adapt to both. Then okay, you're lucky.
I think I'm more of the first one. I think I'd more happily go up to speak to somebody because I feel like it gives it more context, right? I think and you can read the person as well. I feel like where do you fit in with that? Do you fit somewhere in the middle, or do you lean towards one end or the other?
I think I can lean in both. I mean, I think I can fit in both. I would prefer, well, I actually did prefer the Netherlands, which is slightly different than Germany, right? So it's like they have all those rules, but at the same time, they know that sometimes things don't go according to the plan, and then the rules can be changed, or they can just be suspended for some time. And while you do write an email, you also can give a call, or you can walk by. So
what has Amsterdam taught you about yourself that maybe other places didn't? And I know that sounds like a crazy question given it's Amsterdam, but what have you learned since you've been there?
I'm actually, it's a very cool question. I mean, what have I learned? I mean, it's not even Amsterdam per se, though Amsterdam is very important. I mean, it does feel like home, and it is a very interesting city with quite an interesting history. So there's a lot to learn from there, from the Dutch and from Amsterdammers who are like very distinct there. But maybe up to a point, it's even more, so the fact that I moved, so that I made a move, was maybe even more important in many ways for me personally than when I moved to Amsterdam. So Amsterdam just it helps me do what I want to do, but the fact that I finally decided to resettle someplace, that maybe taught me even more. So I found out that I can really get around, I can talk to people, there are actually places where there are more people who I feel are like me, something I didn't feel back in Russia.
Right, okay, yeah.
I always felt a bit, slightly odd one out in some respect.
Why was that, do you think? And without prying too much, is that because you did travel a lot more? Like, is it a thing for Russians to travel a lot, or do they kind of stay localized?
Well, statistics say that 80 or 86% don't have a traveling passport.
Oh, wow.
Also because the majority of Russians are pretty poor, so they don't have the funds necessary the means to go abroad, right?
Yeah.
And also you need to get a visa, so it's complicated. But I don't know, to answer your question short, I don't know. I mean, I just always felt a bit slightly different. Maybe it's because I am a very weird mixture of cultures, because so I was born in the Soviet Union. I still seen some of it when I was very small. I was brought up in a pretty standard Soviet family, right? At the same time, I used to study it was an experimental joint American-Russian program at school.
Oh, wow.
And the guys were called Accelerated Christian Education. So it was also, as you can imagine, so they were also trying to kind of bring in some Christianity, some Protestant culture into this. So we didn't have any any preaching really, because the teachers were still the same teachers, I mean, from Russia, but they kind of gave slightly different context and the workload was different and stuff like that. And I mean, I know that in the US, for example, people look at the ancestry a lot. So my ancestry is like Russian, Polish, and Jewish. That's quite a mixture, right? So I
Yeah.
mean, it just
Yeah, just you never felt like you completely belonged.
yeah. Well, I mean, I could blend in, but I was always looking slightly from outside.
Yeah.
And in Amsterdam, weirdly enough, I feel like I'm a bit more at home. Maybe because there are so many expats these days there. But also we have some Dutch friends. I mean, they feel quite relatable.
Yeah. Is it true? I had a little bit of a dig around your website. Is it true that you look for cultural models or cultural things through children's books? Is that true?
I kind of use both.
Yeah.
So at work, so when we kind of help people choose where to go and what to look at, we use cultural models like Hofstede's six-dimensional model. I find it extremely useful because it looks at the fundamental values like power distance, individuality versus the way. What's the other word? Yeah, indulgence and other things, building blocks.
Okay.
Very useful, kind of quantifies things. But once you studied that, you start seeing things in the kids' books too. And when I moved to a new country, I myself like to look at the kids' books, at the all kinds of fairy tales and stuff. It's a very good thing to learn the language. It's a very good thing to look into the culture, because this is something that's being taught. This is the archetypal things. And once you know how Culture Compass works, for example, you're like, okay, so this is basically this is the good, so to say,
Okay.
the target,
Like a reference point to
the
this
reference point. This is the
story.
target profile of what works. This is the target profile that
Yeah.
doesn't work, and this is what they teach you. And again, when you start looking at the different cultures, they will be teaching you very different things,
Mm.
and that can say a lot. But also when you just go a bit beyond, I mean, just the actions of the main protagonist, but looking into, okay, what is being punished, what is being mocked, what is,
Lauded. What is being
yeah, yeah,
held
yeah,
on it. Yeah,
yeah,
held in high
yeah,
regard.
yeah, yeah.
That's interesting. Though. I'd never thought about it like before. And with the language thing, I'm just thinking, is it because children's books are maybe wrote a little simpler? So it's not as complex of a dialogue or dialect than maybe it would be if you were trying to learn a language off straight. You know, me now, for example, trying to learn, I don't know, Russian, for example, would be probably, you know.
Don't do this to you. I mean,
No,
it's
no, no.
very
Trust me,
complicated.
it's hard enough for me to speak English at times. How do you balance learning about where you are and becoming, sort of immersing yourself in the culture that you're in now, while at the same time keeping that balance between your own values and your own upbringing? Is it easy for you to do that, given you've moved a lot?
Um, I think I just like it. I'm very curious by nature, so I'm always curious about how people live. What do they do? Why do they do this? Why is this weird system? Why does this weird system work like this? So there are not so many illogical things in the world. Many of them are legacy code, right? So it happens because it happened this way for a reason,
Mm-hmm.
right? The inspiration for the way I approach this was from Count de Monte Cristo of Dumas, who was traveling around the world, and he was always, picking up things that he liked from different cultures. So I like studying and learning about new cultures because there was always something new I can learn and I can kind of adopt. So it's very hard for me to pinpoint the particular things, but even in my small routines, I mean, I do some things the way Italians do. I do some things the way Dutch do. I do some things the way Russians do. I do some things the way Germans do. And I mean, I just enjoy doing all that. So if you want, I'm a globalist and I love it, right? So because there are so many interesting things you can learn that I find either kind of more right or more logical, or they just kind of resonate with me.
Yeah.
So it's just about this, combining, like, there's tradable card games, like combining your own deck,
Yeah. Yeah.
basically.
No, hey, listen, it makes sense to me. And I, to be honest, I try and do the same sort of thing. on a smaller scale, because I've only ever lived in the US, but you meet so many different people in all these places that you kind of do pick little things from people just to try and make a better version of yourself, don't you?
Yeah, yeah. And in the US, you also have so many cultures, so you can
Mm.
basically, okay, you have the same American Italians, American Portuguese. You
Yeah.
have I mean, Latina cultures and whatnot. I mean, you have so many people here,
Yeah,
so very
absolutely.
different
Has
people.
take Amsterdam, for example, and you say you've got Dutch friends. Has there been sort of I don't know, like a small phrase or a joke or a story that suddenly unlocked a completely new understanding of the place? So you talk about the children's books and how that gives you a little bit of, a reference point to how maybe people behave. But has there been a specific incident where you've all of a sudden it's made sense to you about being in the place that you're in?
Yeah, there is a Dutch term. It's called gedogen. It means that something is forbidden, but because you cannot eradicate it, it is tolerated. There is a term for that. That's so basically back in history when they had all those religious tensions, pretty much everybody in Amsterdam knew who the secret Catholics were. Well, I
Right.
mean, before when it was Catholics, everybody more or less knew who the Protestants were, but okay, they didn't rat them out. Then they changed the other way around. Obviously, yeah, there were zealots who were trying to do some nasty things,
Yeah.
but the ordinary people, okay, yeah. There are many hidden churches now that are monuments that are built in the attic somewhere.
Hmm.
And you had a secret staircase going there, and you had an extra way out in case the police, not the police, whatever that was there, coming. The same with red light districts. It is forbidden, but it is here. As long as you behave in a certain way, it's kind of okay. If you start looking at the drugs situation, right? So light drugs that are allowed in the
Yeah.
Netherlands, you will see that what it says on the official website is that they are forbidden, but
Well,
under certain conditions their consumption is tolerated, and here are the conditions. But they are forbidden, nobody allowed them. They're just tolerated, so the police will not do you anything as long as you behave. And it's a very, very tricky thing. And I'm like, oh my God, this is the word that I was always looking for because yeah, well, some bad things you just can't eradicate. You may disagree with them on moral grounds, but I mean, it's just with human nature. You
it's
can't
there.
change the
Yeah.
fundamental human nature. It's there. It will be there. If you say it is not and try to eradicate it, will just go, some place where you don't see it and you can't control it. Or you can say, okay, here, under these conditions, you may get involved in this as long as you're like, okay, grown up, well, whatever. Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, to me, this is the perfect explanation.
The global term because it would apply to so many things.
I mean, I mean,
If people just used it, it'd be brilliant. Okay, that's it. Yeah, it's there. We know it's not our cup of tea, but it's there along these conditions and it's fine. I think there's a lot of things going on like that now
there's
that
so
apply.
many things we can learn from the Dutch. I mean, I kid you not. They've been having their democracy from 16th century. They still have like the most. I mean, right now when there was this right party won the elections, do you know how many seats in parliament did they get? 25%,
Hmm.
because they have a total of 40 parties in the Netherlands, and I think 20 something is in parliament. So no one party can ever make any decision. They all have to compromise. I mean, it's wonderful. I mean,
That's a lot. Yeah,
yeah,
a
you
lot
have
of
to
people could learn from that,
compromise.
couldn't they? Because it would make people less extreme.
Precisely. So you have small extreme parties and you have pretty big centrists who are also like moving, whether they are like more green or slightly religious and stuff like that. But I mean, okay,
But they
you
have
have
to
you
work
can, you can
together, otherwise,
choose something that's close to
yeah,
you.
that's just, again, it's something that could be used. So
Oh yeah,
we'll move on to your personal now. You started up Greener Relocation, which is your
yeah,
new, call it, adventure.
yeah, yeah.
Was that something that stemmed for your own experiences, or was it something that you, again, because you are a strategist, was it something that you'd been planning before?
It actually started from my experience. So as we were talking, that I at some point I figured out that okay, I have an opportunity to basically move and live in Italy, but something was holding me back because while I like Italy a lot, I mean it's a wonderful country, and I like the people there and everything, but it always felt a bit like not now, maybe later or maybe under different conditions. But the way I was living, I was like, it's not the right place to be permanently. And then at some point, I figured out that all of my friends who moved abroad, or all the people I know, they never really made any decision, any choice. And I was like, wait, but nobody does that. So, I mean, if you start Googling, you can find guys who will sell you a passport for investment, or preferably a big one, or they will help you set up a business so that you can get the documents, or they will fill in the forms, but everybody sells just their country. And they will tell you why this country is very good, but no one can uses comparable methodologies to just, show, okay, yeah, this is what's good, this is what's bad, choose your poison. And also I figured out that I have the background for it, right? So I'm an international economist. I was working in international business with international project because that multifamily office, we had investments like quite around the place. I'm curious about cultures. And I also taught at the university, so I'm good at explaining complex things in an easy way. And I was like, okay, but we did the market research. And I was like, apparently I'm inventing the job. So as Sherlock Holmes used to say, I invented the job. My main goal, the mission I see, is help people figure out whether they want to go or not. And if they do, okay, what is it they're looking for? How do available options compare by these parameters? And giving some perspective into how to make the decision and how to plan A, B, C, because sometimes you need to have plan B.
Yeah. For people who are new to it, because like you said, you've basically invented a job. What sort of services, like tangible services, do you provide for, say, for example, I don't know, me, right? I want to go to, I come to you and I want to go to, I'm thinking possibly go to the Netherlands, possibly go to Italy or Spain. All right. So what sort of services can you provide for me?
There are basically like two ways we work. One is if you're thinking about moving abroad, but you're like not sure which direction, because then that's what we call ranking. So we start with an interview. We'll just sit down and talk to you for an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours. If you're not moving alone, then with your partners, because it's important. And then we will figure out, okay, so what is it you're looking for? I mean, what do you like where you are now? What don't you like? Why have you started thinking about moving abroad? Okay, so what are the pushes and pulls in this? And then we will sort out everything that is measurable. So we keep this database that covers now 170 cities from around the world, 75 countries, and then basically we will just come up with your personalized ranking. Okay, so this is your ranking. And once you choose your shortlist, we will show you the detailed comparison, because the most important thing is not what is good. The most important thing, what is bad about the place and whether you're ready to tolerate it or not.
Yeah. Compromise.
Compromise is everything. So we're very focused on trade-offs. Like, yeah, you have better political culture here, maybe. But different aspects of political culture that we measure. But yeah, keep in mind, I don't know, the discrimination of women, for example, is a bit out of the. It's not very good. Or LGBTQ, right? So some places maybe that on average score highly, but they're not as safe for LGBT people, for example. Many people come to me and they say that just everything kind of feels fine, but they don't feel like they belong. They feel slightly alien. And then we measure their national culture profile. We overlap it with the country where they are. And yeah, we see where it comes from. Okay, yeah, so here is how you're different. This is what probably pisses you off. These are the countries where this average person may look a bit like you. Why does this average person mean? Because in every country you can find your own bubble, right, where you be with comfortable people. But it's the median voter who puts political parties in place, right? So it's this one guy.
So you're thinking, so you've got to think like all of these. This is your average person. this is probably why, if you don't think like this, then this is why you're upset or disappointed or disgruntled or whatever it is.
Or you have to be prepared to the fact that they will be thinking differently like this. So this is where you stand, this is where they stand. I mean, maybe this is your advantage, that you're different from the average person. Maybe this is how you can make a business, for example. But you have to be prepared that maybe you will be pissed off because things go slower, or things go quicker, or they're less predictable, or they're like more hierarchical or less hierarchical. Maybe you're used to being addressed, Herr Professor, right? And they just, go by, clap you on the shoulder and say, "Hey, John, how you doing?" And like, what?
It's the same thing, isn't it? Like some people prefer an email, some people prefer a conversation.
Absolutely.
Do you cover everywhere, or is it at the moment, is it just Europe?
No, we have 75 countries, so it's basically everywhere. There are countries that are left out, but to be honest, it's most of them. They're either small island nations or the countries where you wouldn't really want to go, probably.
I was going to
But
say, you
I
can make a
mean,
fortune just by doing the US for people
we
who've
have a
been to different
separate
cities.
database. We have a separate database for the US because when it comes to the US, it is slightly like a different planet. Here, you have even different parameters that we look at because red or blue state, red or blue mayor of the city, either red or blue state matters. Homeless population rate is pretty important, right? So people often ask me about it. Crime rates, they not only feel, but they actually are quite different from what you have in Europe or, for example, in the Middle East. What else? Such a thing as personal bankruptcies due to healthcare bills. You don't have that in Europe. Here you have the statistics for it. I mean, you don't have such a thing in Europe. And I mean, this may be important, right? So also the US has a lot of data. So for the US, we have 75 cities, right? So I never lived in the US. So my personal perspective will be less
it's not as you can't
valuable.
Contribute that way, but you have the data to back it up.
I have the data to back it up, and I tried to catch up. So I was reading this wonderful book by Colin Woodward about American nations. Absolutely loved it. Where he just outlines that there are basically 11 nations, as he put it, in the US that are quite distinctive.
Yeah. And you're kind of on a mini tour now though, right? I mean, I spoke to you the other day, you were in DC, you're now in Philadelphia. Are you, and I know you're with your wife, so obviously you're trying to enjoy it, but have you got your little notebook as well and just be like, okay, this place, this is okay. I'm not sure about this place. So...
Up to a point, basically that's last year we went to West Coast, so we went LA, San Diego, Vegas, San Francisco. And now we're doing East Coast, all the way up to Boston. And pretty much it is important for me to see it with my own eyes, because what I read, what I hear, what I see in the data is one thing, but one of the most important things that I contribute to my clients is after I show them the data, because once I present the report, we have another conversation.
Yeah.
And in that conversation, I tell them what is not covered by the data, because this is also a very important thing. Okay, look, guys, so here you have a pretty high crime rate, but in this particular city, it is like 100% contained in a certain area, right? So, and so far it has been quite okay. So if you're living outside, it's good. Or is it not, for example? And this is something you have to go and see for yourself.
It's a personal touch, isn't it? And that's the thing. Like, I mean, and without sounding condescending, if you have the knowledge, anyone could get the data. But at the same time, if you've got the personal touch to back it up, then that makes you more of an attractive proposition for somebody to go through you. Can you talk on any success stories? Like you talk about the band, right? And the band broke up and they went all over, right? You've got guys in the Middle East, you've got guys in different countries all over. Have they ever reached out to you for advice, or are they pretty on the same mindset of yourself?
Some did.
Yeah.
But many of them were, when they were moving, so they were moved with their companies, so they didn't really have any choice.
Yeah.
It was a pretty straightforward thing. I think some of the best success stories, without naming the names, would be, I have a few clients who, after talking to me, doing the ranking, even making a trip to have a look, and test drive, so to say, particular cities, they decided to not move, to stay.
Oh wow.
I
Is
find I
that a
find that this
common
is
thing, do you think? Is it just they want the information and they say, you know what, the grass isn't greener?
the grass isn't greener. Yeah, sometimes, because that's the thing. That's why I don't help with the documents or sell the passports. I don't care if you move or not. My main point is that you make your decision what's better for you. And some people, and I very much I believe that this is the sort of KPI for success of my business, that some people choose not to move because they figure out that where they are, the compromises are less than if they start moving.
Yeah.
I find this it's amazing. I had a very lovely young couple who came to me. They were just curious. They were thinking maybe we just should travel and abroad just to see the world a bit. And the city that they were from ended up being number one and quite ahead of everything else. They were laughing. I mean, we laughed, but I mean, I checked out the math. No, it works out. And they were like, yeah, well, it does feel like that because we never really thought that we would move completely. We thought like moving forward. And so 2 years forward, they just got a mortgage and bought a house.
Hey, listen,
I mean,
if they hadn't have spoken to you, they could have gone and had an absolute nightmare in the place. I mean, you know, it might
yeah,
have been
maybe. They may have tried, I don't know, Dubai, and knowing them, that will not fit.
yeah.
They would not love it. But I mean, yeah,
Through all this and the moving, because again, you've moved. So it was 2022 when you moved.
yeah,
So you're now 3 years away permanently, say,
yeah.
for now anyway. How is your new relationship with your wife? Like, how have you supported each other through all this and through this relocation and through the processes that you go through now?
Well, that's yeah, we've that's probably the big thing, right? So it's pretty hard to move on your own. And what I see of quite many Russians who moved abroad, I see couples breaking up quite often because okay, somebody is ready for the compromise, somebody is not. So for my wife, it was a bit harder than for me because I'm starting my own business, right? So I'm well, not so much starting. Been 5 years now, but
Still
still
young,
working.
still young.
Still young, yeah. She moved, she was pretty high in the corporate career, and it's very hard to, the higher you are, the harder it is to move.
Mm-hmm.
Up to a certain point where you can just, you don't
do what you
care,
want.
right? So, yeah, do what you want. So, yeah, there's like a U-shaped dependency in a way. So, yeah, so we were supporting each other quite a lot. Also, it's because she used to live properly in Britain. I used to live in more countries, so it's a bit easier for me to blend in, to know how to deal with cultures and stuff.
Mm.
Also, because I speak German, Dutch language is a bit easier for me. So yeah, we were working as a team all the time because
Yeah.
it's not always easy for her. Sometimes it's in the business wise, not as easy for me. So sometimes she looks at it and like, oh yeah, why are you doing this? You have to do that. And like, okay, again, she's right. What the hell?
You just, yeah, well, exactly. That's one thing that you definitely have to, and that goes back to that Dutch word, right? Listen, it might not be what I want, but it is what it is. What is that? What is that word again? I'm never going to be able to say it.
It's gedogen if you pronounce it
Gedogen,
the
if you
way
pronounce
it's
it
written,
like
Gedogen, but because Dutch pronounce r, so it's gedogen.
All right, I'm gonna. If I ever get the wherewithal to throw that into a sentence, it'll make sense, and I'll know, and I'll chuckle to myself.
It's the best word. I mean, I just love it. It's absolutely magnificent.
All right, if I was to come back to you in 5 years' time, what would you have liked to have seen happen with Greener Relocation?
I would really love it being bigger and more automatized, maybe, because right now it's a very personal touch. It's important, but now I already see the things that I can make a bit more automatic so that people don't necessarily have to talk to me, because some people prefer not to, speak. They would love to really just click a few things in the app and see something.
Yeah.
So I just would love to accommodate that. And I would also like to see more people who I could train who would do the things I do. So, I mean, that would be great if I could do that, if I could properly cover the entire world, because right now, yeah, I have a lot of Russian speakers. I have some Europeans. I have some Americans now, but yeah, there's also South America. There is Africa. There is Asia.
Yeah,
and not only for them moving to say Europe or America. There are lots of wonderful countries, many places. Cape Town sometimes pops up in the ranking for some people, or Buenos Aires, for example. So I mean, Tokyo, even though it's very complicated moving, I would really love to see it scaled up and being less dependent on me and having a bigger team than I have now.
Yeah,
It would be great.
well, hopefully that happens, mate. It sounds like, I mean, you're definitely selling it to me. Last question for you, mate. What does home mean to you now?
You know, I think it always meant pretty much the same thing for me. So it's the place where my family is, my wife, my cat, my guitars, and my books. So for quite a while, I had those in different places. On COVID, we managed to finally, when we moved to our own flat, we managed to assemble all those things and felt like home, finally. And now we moved to Amsterdam, and my guitars were coming later, and the books were coming also later because we couldn't fit them in the car. But now they're like there. It does feel like home. So
that's great. I can agree with that one. It's not necessarily a place, is it? It's a feeling or a few things.
No, it's a feeling.
Well, listen, Vasily, thanks so much for your time. It's been really good, really interesting, and a lot of things that you're saying honestly resonate with me. And I wish it's one of those things that, again, I spoke to someone the other day and about not a similar sort of thing, but just having a sense of belonging. And I wish it'd have been nice if I'd have got this 20 years ago when I moved over here, just to have a little bit more of an understanding, just to know I could know as well.
Thank you, Gary.
No, appreciate it. But before you go, typically what I do is I have a couple of quick fire questions that I'll ask a guest.
Okay, fire it out.
Favorite custom or pastime that you've adopted from your travels?
Favorite pastime? Oh my God. You know, probably just wandering around the new city, just going without the map, walking, you know, turning into side streets and until I get completely lost. Usually on those kind of walks that can last like a few hours, I find so many amazing bookstores and cafes and just beautiful buildings that are hidden somewhere. It's just the best, you know, when you don't have the plan.
Yeah.
When you just walk.
The first word that you learned in Dutch?
Firstly, you know, that's the tricky one because there are so many Dutch words that are ended up in Russian, apparently. All maritime terms, half of the trade terms, half of engineering terms are Dutch. So, I mean, I can't even say I keep on running into them and I'm like, oh my God, this is also a Dutch word? What the hell? But the proper was probably gedogen because I started reading the book about the Netherlands that our Dutch friends gave me. And there was this concept and I was like, oh my God, this does make so much sense. That would be it.
Most bizarre cultural misunderstanding that you've experienced?
Most bizarre cultural misunderstanding. Probably it had to be something with the things that are kind of considered impolite in one culture and polite in another.
One thing about America that you'll never understand.
Yeah, it's very hard for me to understand this whole idea of using single-use cups and forks and knives in the hotels where you actually use proper dishes. So it means you do wash them. Why use all that cardboard or plastic? I mean, I'm coming from the Netherlands where you bring your shopper, you kind of return plastic bottles and get a fee for it back.
Yeah.
So for me, this like, how does this work? Why so much of it? I also understand why it happens, more or less. But I mean, it's like it's very weird.
All right. One thing that you do miss from Russia?
Well, my family, my extended family, my parents, my friends. But basically, and also, you know, I probably miss the times. It wasn't an easy, and it was a very good time for everybody, but there was a particular decade when it was a very interesting time. It was very, very convenient.
Yeah.
But otherwise, yeah, some spontaneity, you know. So when you invited me, like, okay, let's record a podcast like few days from now, I was like, oh my God, I'm almost home because in the Netherlands you plan a coffee for the 2 months from now, usually with your neighbors. I kid you not, everybody has the planner. And like, okay, the next week we have this, 2 weeks time we have that, in 3 weeks time we're going someplace. What about, I don't know, 15th of July and you're in April? I'm like, okay, wait. Oh no, I can't. I have this, I don't know, repairment coming.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that was a thing. I thought they would be a
Absolutely.
bit more laissez-faire in Europe.
No. The Dutch, no, they're playing this thing. They can adapt very quickly, but everything goes according to schedule. No, you can't skip the line. You can't go ahead. So I mean, it's like for me, it's very refreshing because in Russia, you just agree for like, okay, guys, I'm here now. Who joins and everybody? Yeah, just let move all the plans and go.
That's funny.
So it's very refreshing.
All right, last question. If you could play in one band, which would it be?
Oh my God. Playing in one band. Of currently existing, it would probably be Pretty Reckless or Hailstorm. If we
Okay.
take global, I would probably love to play in Rainbow. But then again, Richie Blackmore doesn't play with anybody, so I don't think that would work out.
Well, you can dream. You can dream.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But I mean, yeah, currently existing Pretty Reckless. I just love these guys.
No, listen, Vasily, thank you so much for your time, mate. It's been a pleasure. I wish you all the best, and I hope the rest of your trip goes well. Please don't order any more work. Enjoy the time with your wife.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you or someone you know has a story to share, we'd love to hear from you. Reach out to us via our socials or visit www.crossingthepondpodcast.com to get in touch. Please be sure to subscribe, like, or leave a comment if you can. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
The Cross Pond Podcasting.